Yeah. Right, we all seem to be up and running. Oh, yeah, so now you want to come up. Come on. Come on. If you're coming up, come up. No? Come on. You bloody nuisance you are getting. And your feet are wet. Don't get them on the keyboard. Come on. Right, today. A bit of a general tidy up and thinking about the next step, which involves changing the way I put the formulae into the setup for salt. And having thought about it, I think the best way is to set one single file route for formulae slash server slash formulae, and then create symbolic links in there. And then for each formula repository, I will put it into a cache directory and then symbolically link that cache directory into the formula. So then what I can do then is I can have I can put all of the repository paths, any authentication or authorization stuff, username, passwords, and the name of the formula into a pillar, and have a salt state that will then just process that pillar into a series of stanzas that will both do the Git download into the cache and create the symbolic link. Now that's only useful for the bootstrap. Going forward, if you wanted to update the virtual machine by rerunning it, you'd have to be a bit careful about formulae being removed, because of course they wouldn't get removed unless you flushed out all of the symbolic links before you ran that. I suppose that's one way of doing it, would be to at the beginning of the process just flush out the /serve/formula directory and then rebuild it from scratch, which is a bit brutal but would certainly do the job. For now though, just having it set up and link everything together will work fine, because this is really just a one-way process and part of the the build process for building the image. So I'm not too worried by that. So that was all thinking. I'll do that tomorrow, and then, as I tend to, I got distracted by shiny things. I was, as I do, I have a quick look through a series of Reddit. Yeah, I have a group of Reddit subreddits that I look at regularly, and a few topics sort of caught my interest, and I went diving down the road. Now, one of them was somebody mentioned observability-driven development, and I'd not heard of that before. So I thought I'll have a look at that because it looked interesting, and it turned out to be, at the moment, a bit of a dead end. Did you just fart? Hmm. I'll know soon enough, won't I? Yeah. I'll know soon enough if it's going to be an issue, because sorry, I'll know soon enough if it's a dead end. I need to do a bit more research, but whoops. But at the moment, all of the articles I've come across are effectively the same article. They've been slightly reworded, but they're exactly the same article. And they all talk in very abstract terms about the wonderfulness of observability driven development. And I kind of see the point about the general point about if you design your system with observability in mind, that is the idea of putting in enough information into your monitoring and your logs and your event traces that you can then rebuild and analyze what your system's doing at any given time. Then you can then start writing tests to verify hypotheses that you might have about what's going wrong with your system. Fine, I don't have a problem with any of that. What I can't find in any of the articles is how that makes it driven development. I mean, saying that you should put observability into your system is a design point. Observability itself is an architectural and design decision. So none of that's got anything to do with, a testing regime per se. So there must be more to this that I'm missing. Otherwise, it's just vacuous bollocks. I mean, it might be just vacuous bollocks, but who knows? Anyway, that's just something that tickled my fancy. The other thing, while I was looking into that, I came across OpenSlow. That's OpenSLO, which is an interesting little project. And the idea behind that one is that they're trying to come up with a standardized way, data-driven way, of writing and monitoring service levels. So the idea is that you would define in data, YAML as it happens, that you've got, say, two metrics. Let's say you were just monitoring your CPU. So you might have two metrics, CPU metrics, which are both being pulled from, say, Prometheus. And you can therefore calculate the ratio between those two. And you can say, my SLO says that, these should never drop below 98%. So you can say, right, okay, if the SLO drops below 0.9, then that's an event in my monitor. And then you can specify if I have more than, a certain number of events in a given period of time, then I should alert someone. So, if my CPU usage is above 98%, more than 3 times in a 1 minute period, then alert someone to do something about it. Or if my disk space rises above 60%, more than 5 times during a day, then alert someone to do something about it. Those kind of things. And I mean, you can put anything in there, but it's an interesting idea. So I shall keep an eye on that and maybe play around with it at some point in the future. Another one somebody came up with was costing. This was a kind of backdoor advert for their open source project called Komiser, AOMISER, which you'll find at KEOMISER.io. And this is an interesting one. It's open source, and it's an attempt to provide a unified interface for establishing costs. So what is your AWS infrastructure actually costing you? It's not a cost estimation tool. It's a monitoring tool. It's got a nice, pretty UI that shows you, where all your installations are and what they're costing you. So at the moment, it will do most of the main providers. I think it does Linode, it does DigitalOcean, it does AWS, it does Google Cloud, and I think it does Azure, amongst others. But they're the main ones. So you can specify again in, if I remember correctly, it was YAML. You specify all of the services, all of the accounts that you're using, and that kind of stuff, and it will then go away and figure out what your actual costs are. So you can monitor it, which seems like a very good idea. Particularly, it would be nice, I guess, if it also provided an API, so you could add that to your monitoring and alerting. But I don't know. I haven't looked at that yet. You're being a pain, aren't you? So yeah, so that was a couple of things that got me distracted today. This is the unfortunate thing, where when you're not under any time pressures to do something, you get distracted easily, and you end up rabbit holing and getting distracted by shiny new things. But it was interesting. That was the other one as well. Load testing. Yeah. Looking at JMeter and was it JMeter, and then the BlazeMeter wrapper around it. And I had a quick look at Octoperf. Just looking at how you can load test, websites and APIs. So that was by the by, really. That was just a very quick note to self when I reach the point of actually wanting to write these things. I can go back and look at that. The other thing that was interesting was, and it's something that I've been thinking about, is observability and carrying that into like your CI/CD pipelines. So hooking stuff into the CI/CD pipeline so that you can event monitor and extract information about the performance of your CI/CD pipeline. So I shall give that some consideration as well, and look at how I can plug in different levels of observability into that as I'm developing it. Anyway, we're back to basics tomorrow. So tomorrow I'm going to finish writing the bits and bobs to put these formulae in. That should finish for now the work on the base development machine. I'll then, no, that's not true. I'm going to also add in the Sphinx documentation generator and some details about that will allow me then to start documenting the way the developer VM works, how to set it up, and the core. Then once I've done that, I will pull those updates into the existing Gitea development, and I'll then write the documentation for that to show how to set up a project. Then those two things together, I'll do an extended stream where I showcase that and show how it all fits together. And no doubt have another conversation about the benefits of using virtual machines or Docker in your development process, and why I've decided to go the way I have with VMs. There's a lot of hate about VMs. I don't get it. I don't understand it. I think virtual machines for your development environments are awesome. Because, I mean, it allows you to have a standard environment that you can fuck up and restore in seconds by taking a snapshot and just restoring it. And as long as you're disciplined about the way you approach these things, it seems like a great idea. Admittedly, you need a machine with a little bit of balls to do it effectively. But nowadays, almost any laptop will support one VM. And the isolation that you get and the ability to completely, I think one of the reasons people don't like it is because if you're not confident about setting up your own personal development environment in a consistent way, in other words, you automated it, I can see how that would be a pain in the ass. I mean, if I wanted to reproduce what was on my current Mac, the one I'm currently using to make this, it would be a nightmare because it was all done manually. I didn't really give a toss one way or the other. I just threw shit at it. But in terms of where I actually do my work, the development work, because it's all server based and because I use NeoVim, I don't have a GUI on any of the machines because I don't need it. Anything that I do need a graphical interface to, it just goes through the browser. And that goes onto the host machine. So from that point of view, I've got a very controlled environment now. I can put all my personal stuff on there. Everything gets set up to interface to all of my systems, and it's all automated. It's all done by script. And it's very consistent and very repeatable, and it's a piece of piss. So building a new virtual machine from the ground up is really no big deal. You just kind of work out what you want to plug in, plug it in, run the scripts, and it builds you a machine. You piss off, have a cup of coffee while it does it, come back, your new machine's ready. You can take a snapshot at the beginning. To make sure you've got a restore point to the very, so you don't have to rebuild it all the time. And then just get on with your bloody work. And as long as you put everything into, a repository that's outside the VM, you push everything to GitLab, GitHub, or to a local Gitee or whatever. Then okay, if you screw up, then you snapshot back to the beginning, pull everything out of your repository and get on with your work. You put everything back the way it was. So to me, it's a very natural way of working. If I suppose if my virtual machines had GUIs and crap, because GUIs do tend to weigh virtual machines down a bit. Weigh any machine down a bit. I guess, if I was desperate to use a GUI-based development environment, then I can see how that might be an issue. But I'm not. I can do it in the virtual machine. Like I said, if I need, for example, if I need to render a PDF interactively, I can either do it through the browser or I can, put it onto a shared file system and just view it on another machine. And I can even do that live. Using the sync files. Sync folders in a Vagrant VM. Which is all done for you. You just get your build to put the PDF in there, and then you have something like, in my case, it's Skim. Your PDF viewer of choice. Have it auto reload, and then whenever the build happens on your host machine, it'll just update and redisplay it. And you can do that with pretty much everything. It's a mystery to me why it's such an issue. Anyway, so there's that. And then I guess once we get into doing the Gitee stuff, I'll also get back to writing because there's a good opportunity here to talk about the beginnings of salt, how to write, salt states, salt formulae, how to use the pillar, how to debug them, and get information out of the system. Can do all of that in a masterless mode, so it's nice and easy. I can also start talking about concourse and pipelines, but more importantly, it gives me the opportunity to put a bit more structure into the DevOps tech stack. And from there, we can start working on the real project. Because once the Gitty is up and running, and I've got Nexus installed and set up, yeah, I can start working on the systems for real. It's a long-winded way of doing it. If I was doing it as a job, I'd probably have it done by now because I'd be working on it 8-9 hours a day. As it is, I'm working on it 2 or 3 hours a day. So. Anyway, once my interest is gripped, I'm sure I'll pick up the pace. But that's it for today, and I will see you again most likely tomorrow.